We are all aware that the holiday of Shavuot has no date in the Torah, whereas Pesach and Sukkot, and Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all are given dates, the Chodesh Rishon, whatever, but the Shavuot is not given any date. And the Shavuot is 50 days after Pesach. And the connection of the 50 days to the holiday of Shavuot, Shavuot is Man Matan Toratenu, it lies in the original statement that was made to Moshe that after Yitzias Mitzrayim, Tavdu Nes Elohim al Hor Hazeh. That's what Moshe heard at the burning bush. Tavdun. Now it should say Tavdu. What is Tavdun? The extra nun. So Chazal said that Moshe was told in advance the noon is 50, so that after 50 days pass from the time that you leave Egypt, then that will be the Yom Tov of Shavuos. That's where, that's the date that it would be. And that's part of the tradition of Chazal. We all know the famous controversy with the Tzdokim. Says in the Torah, Memochras HaPesach, you should begin the count to get to the 50 days. So when it says Memochras HaShabbos, it doesn't say Memochras HaPesach. So the Tzdokim said that we have to interpret this literally, and that Shabbos means Shabbos, and therefore the count always has to begin on a Sunday. Memochras HaShabbos. And Chazal said that Mochras HaShabbos means Mochras HaPesach. There are many, many proofs to that. And therefore Shavuos doesn't have to necessarily be on a Sunday, though this year it is. But it could be on any time, 50 days after Pesach, after Yitzias Mitzrayim. So it was that combination of drushes that Chazal made, darshaning the nun in Tavdun, and also the fact that it says Memochras HaShabbos, that they darshan that to be Mochras HaPesach, so that gave us the date of Shavuos. So what's the idea? What Meforshim discuss? Why did God delay, so to speak, these 50 days? What's the purpose of that? What does it commemorate? So we have a medrash that Rashi quotes, and that is the traditionally accepted idea here, is that when the Jewish people were in Egypt, they had sunk to the level of the Egyptians. It's not hard. You're in a country 300 years, whatever. And they were enslaved, and so they adopted the ways of the Egyptians. So as the Medrash says, the angels in heaven said, Halolu ovdei avodah zorah, v'halolu ovdei avodah zorah. Why do you punish the Egyptians and save the Jews? They're just as bad. So at the time of the miracle of Yam Suf, or at the time of Yitzias Mitzrayim, the Jews are just as bad as the Egyptians. Chazal expressed it in their language that there are 50 levels of holiness, and in opposition there are 50 levels of unholiness. It's the Shari Tuma, of defilement, of immorality. So the Talmud says that the Jews had sunk to the 49th level, so that's why the Rabbanu Shalom Chishav es HaKetz, he had to refigure, so to speak, when he's going to take them out. Because if you waited the whole 400 years, they never would have gotten out. There'd be nobody left to take out. So after 210 years, he recalculated, and he said, now we're going out. So they were at the 49th level. If they would have stayed longer, they would have been at the 50th level, and the 50th level is beyond redemption, beyond saving anymore. So we have to get out of the 49 levels. So that was the idea behind Sfirat HaOmer, that every day we somehow, since we're coming and looking forward to Matan Torah, to the godly revelation on Sinai, so every day we become a little better. Just by looking forward to something, you become better. It's been proven many times. It's one of the inexplicable things about the human mind. But that if a person, for instance, is looking forward to something, to an event in one's family, or to even to a vacation, to something that the person feels that it is important and pleasurable, so then even if the person, God forbid, is deathly ill, he'll hang on till that happens. Because the powers of the mind are such, of expectation, that it changes us physically. So it changes us spiritually as well. So we're looking forward to Matan Torah. And because we're looking forward to Matan Torah, every day we're a day better. Now, it may not be easily measurable, but that's what the Meforshim say, that the 49 days of Sfirat HaOmer enabled us to climb out of the 49 levels of Tumah that existed. And that therefore we would be worthy of Matan Torah when the holiday of Shavuos comes on the 50th, after 50 days. The Ben Ish Chai has an interest, and it's really based on the Alshich. The Alshich says, why do we count weeks? We all know that in Sfirat HaOmer we count days and we count weeks. And in the Gemara there was a discussion whether one should count what is the main mitzvah of counting the days, or is the main mitzvah of counting the weeks. And so the Gemara's conclusion is that we're going to stay on the safe side, so to speak, and we're going to count both. So as far as counting the days, so there we can say the reason is because we had 49 steps to climb, so to speak. We had 49 levels of Tumah to reach upwards and get out of. So that's why we count the days. And you'll notice that Al Pi Kabbalah, and it's printed in the Sidurim, that every day has a different sphere of holiness that it represents. Until we come to Malchus Sheba Malchus, to the highest sphere. But what about weeks? So the Alshich says, we find in the Torah that the process of purification is always a week. By Tuma, by the Pora Aduma, by Hilchas Nida. Generally, we find in the Torah that the process of purification is always a shavuos. And then we find by Mitzorah that the Kohen comes back after a week. The week is the period of time that's associated with purification. So he says, not only do we reach the level of going up every day, but many times a person is better, but he's not purified yet. Like we know, for instance, if he doesn't go to the mikveh or he doesn't bring the korban, he's still not pure, even though the time has elapsed. And therefore, the Torah told us to count the weeks as well, because the weeks represent this process of purification. And every week that passes, so that also purified us from what was the debris that was inflicted upon us in Egypt. So therefore, in order for the Jewish people to accept the Torah, you couldn't give it to the people if they weren't ready, so to speak. Nasiv and Ishma means that they are at a level that they're ready to accept Torah. Part of the problem that all of the Jewish people face today is that a lot of times the people are just not ready. They don't know what you're talking about. They don't know what you want. And when it reaches that stage, you're almost powerless to influence them, to speak to them, because there's no acceptance within themselves to be able to receive it. So the Rebbeinu Shem Chabayil is no say not Torah. He gives the Torah. But we have to be the Makablei Torah, those that receive the Torah. And it's like, bad example, but it's the phone's in front of me. You can send the message, but if the other guy doesn't have his phone on, it's not going to happen. Even though the message was sent. So this idea of the purification of weeks is that somehow we have to turn on the phone. And that's the process of purification. And that is the period between Pesach and Shavuot, is this preparation for Matan Torah, which is the elevation into higher spheres of spirituality, but it also is the process of purification of the person and of the nation in order to be able to receive the Torah. Now, in our time, because of the fact that things have happened in those 50 days, historical things, the Bar Kokhba rebellion, the death of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, in later times the Crusades, and even later times 1648 and 1649, Zevus Tach V'Tat. So terrible things have happened. And therefore the days took on less of an aura of purification and of elevation, and they took on an aura of avelus, of sadness, of commemorating things that happened to us. But that really is not the way to prepare for Shavuot. That's an overlay. That's something that should be borne in mind, and we commemorate it. We don't have weddings, we don't take haircuts, we limit our job. All of that is true. But that's not the purpose for the 50 days. That's not why they're here. They're here because Tavnu Nesalakim Alahor Hazeh, because we're ready to accept the Torah. And we have our phone on, so to speak. And then we come to the level of Nasiv and Ishma, and the great holiday that Shavuos represents. Reb Chananya ben Akashi Omer, Ratzak HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'zakos Yisrael, Lefichach chirba lahem Torah mitzvah,